Welcome to the Sports Machine with Brian and Dean. Great weekend in sports. Monday, November 23rd, recording in Dallas, Texas.
Yep.
Cotto Alvarez review is coming up.
Oh, man.
Somebody got something. Somebody lost something. That's all it is.
Yeah. That's all I can say is yeah.
NBA weekend review. LaDainian Tomlinson, jersey retired.
LT.
Where does he rank among the greatest of all time? We'll discuss that. College football recap, and of course, somebody's got to get really though, right?
Just wouldn't be a day. It wouldn't be a day if we don't really know somebody, right?
Let's get started in NFL, as usually on Mondays.
Good old NFL weekend.
NFL recap. Let's just get started with your Dallas Cowboys. Tony Romo comes back and they magically start winning again.
Cowboys are what? 0-3 with Romo. They 3-0 with Romo. Get it right. 3-0 with Romo. Without Romo, we're 0-7. So I guess you could say our Dallas Cowboys have a faint pulse. No, it's a pulse. They're still alive because they had a couple of teams in the division lose yesterday, which really helped out a lot. They're still only, a game back right now? 2 games back of the leading New York Giants. Romo had some moments where I was like, yo, please just go down, because, we all know about Ndamukong Suh. We all know Ndamukong Suh is a mean dude, real mean. And so there's a couple times where I was like, just go down, Romo. But he was Mr. Magic Man. He made it happen. I'm happy we got the win. I'm happy we still in a race for right now.
His effect on the receivers. Terrence Williams has a big game.
Right.
Because Tony Romo, everything changes. The offense changes. They can actually score without relying on the defense, putting them in a good position.
Exactly.
Or Lucky Whitehead getting a big return.
Exactly. Another thing to remember is the fact that the Cowboys held such long drives, which then kept the defense fresh. I mean, the defense got a pick 6. A couple of weeks ago, we thought that was a myth. Cowboys and turnovers, that was a myth just a couple of weeks ago. Just last week, it was still a myth.
Do they have any hope for the playoffs?
Right now, I'm going to sound real cliche like I'm an NFL player. They have to take it one game at a time. Right now, just worry about the Carolina Panthers. Worry about how Tony Romo's shoulder coming up. Because as of right now, I still feel like the Cowboys shouldn't fear anybody with Tony Romo at the helm. You saw what he was doing at the lineup. He was making the plays, making the adjustments, doing what he was supposed to be doing as a quarterback. Between the top 5 quarterbacks, nobody is more animated at the offensive line besides Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Tony Romo.
Moving on. The Lions beat the Raiders 18-13.
Ah, man.
Raiders letting everybody down.
I know, man, and it sucks because just our last show, I was saying to myself, I was thinking, I was like, yo, the Raiders are back, and they're looking real good, but it seemed like these past couple of weeks they've gotten exposed, or maybe that's who they always were. It's hard for me to think that that's who they always were when you look at what young Carr and a lot of young players on the team was doing at the time.
Colts beat the Falcons. Falcons inconsistent team. And am I correct that Matt Hasselbeck is 3-0?
Matt Hasselbeck is a lot like Tony Romo right now. He's 3-0 as a backup. Romo comes back as a starter. He's 3-0. Still keeping the playoff hopes alive. Because every team in their division, minus the Tennessee Titans, are alive right now.
Falcons falling back in the standings. Way back.
Right.
Something else that happened in this game.
Here comes Santa Claus!
Matt Ryan gets gift basket of the week.
For those of you who don't know, anytime you hear my man says, here comes Santa Claus. I know it's the holiday season. But anytime you hear that, somebody's getting the gift basket of the week. Now, if you're somebody giving out gift baskets, that's not a good thing on the sports machine. It's not a good thing.
Turnover City.
Oh, man.
Same division. The Texans also got a win. AFC South, everyone was down on them.
Right.
Thursday night game.
And
The Jaguars got to win. The Colts got to win against the Falcons, and now the Texans got to win against the Jets with behind T.J. Yates.
I have to apologize to one of our fans who watch the show, man. I call him Richie Rich, call him Richard Franklin, man. I gave him the blues because if you was listening to the show Friday, Brandon is smoking weed is now a Houston Texan. I told him that their season is done, and then all of a sudden, they just come out with a win against.
Doesn't matter if he doesn't play.
Yeah, it's like exactly. It doesn't matter if he played. Like his curse being on the team, being 0-11 as just when he played. Never mind, man. But they won. They got the win. DeAndre Hopkins, man. What else can I say? 5 receptions, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wish I had you on my fantasy draft, but I didn't. So, oh well.
Jameis Winston set rookie record, throwing 5 touchdowns, even though Doug Martin did most of the work. Let's be real. Like, Doug Martin had 235 yards.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Eagles 45-17 really handily.
Man. I guess so much for Mark Sanchez saving the season right now because they have a quick turnaround. They play also on Thursday like the Cowboys do, and they go into Detroit. Mark Sanchez, Mark Sanchez had to throw the ball 41 times. It's never a good thing when Mark Sanchez is throwing more than 30 times in a game.
It's kind of Chip Kelly's offense, though. And
Yeah.
plus, when you're behind by that much, you're going to throw the ball a lot. Another season-changing quarterback change. Brock Osweiler gets the win against the Bears.
It's funny.
Tank City. Team Tank over here. Chicago, just shut it down. Please don't go 7-9.
No, man. And it's funny because now everybody's calling it Brock and roll now. I just saw a report on it. I was like, really though? Like they barely got a win out. And you know what? I can't sit back and shoot a team down for winning, but the Bears put themselves in a position to win or tie the game, and they didn't on a 2-point conversion. And once again, hey, they got the win. It was a much needed win for the Broncos, and hey, Chicago, y'all played y'all best, man. I can't shoot you down.
Osweiler played well.
He was good.
He was better than what Peyton Manning was doing. He wasn't the
Here comes Santa Claus!
no gift basket like Peyton Manning was.
Let's be for real. Everybody's been a bit better than Peyton Manning, unless your name is Brandon Wheaton.
That one's close. It's a close running. Brandon Wheaton, Peyton Manning on the same level. I don't think I'd ever hear that.
All right. Never in a million years. Somebody told me that would be on the same level. I'd looked them in the face. Never mind.
The Ravens beat the Rams 16-13, but I believe they lost Flacco for the year, and Justin Forsett also got hurt.
Did you see how he broke his arm? It was
I
horrible,
was going
dude.
to talk about it.
Oh, it was horrible, man. Like, I was like, God. You talk about a team being decimated by injuries. God. Ravens can't escape. They just can't escape, man.
Panthers are still undefeated, beating the Redskins 44-16. Cam Newton also had 5 touchdowns.
Right. What else can you say about the Carolina Panthers right now? They could do it all. I mean, from the standpoint of Cam is playing some of his best football ever since Auburn. Since that low run they had at Auburn. I just can't wait because we going to the game on Thursday. We going to the game. So I just can't wait to see what my Cowboys do against them right now. Because right now, man, as a fan of the Cowboys, I don't see why they should fear them.
Don't fear them, but I'm glad I'm going because I'm enjoy watching Cam Newton. Chiefs beat the Chargers 33-3. There's not really much to say about it besides the fact that Chargers are also Team Tank.
Right on.
Packers beat the Vikings in a very big division matchup, 30-13.
I wasn't
Everybody,
expecting that at all.
Just relax.
No, this is a team they don't need to relax though, B.
It don't seem like the Packers could relax. You said no?
No.
It wasn't really that close. I watched the game.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't that close. But once again, I always go back to what you said, man. It's something about that team to just still look out for. So it's like with that team, if they had Jordy Nelson, you relax.
I think they'll win the division. I just don't think they can compete with
The rest of
the
the-
Cardinals or the Panthers. Getting into the Cardinals, they beat the Bengals Sunday night,
Right?
34-31.
Right?
That game was a really good game. And Carson Palmer went out there. First half struggled. I think he was trying to force things against the Bengals because he's going against his old team and they were talking smack before the game. But when the second half came, he was making a lot of good throws. He looked old Carson Palmer, prime Carson Palmer.
Right. And you can't help but to feel like this one was a good win for Carson Palmer. I think their whole team wanted this win for him due to the fact that the way he left Cincinnati. I mean, you even had the owner come out last week and say he hated the way that they kind of cut ties with one another. But at the time, Carson Palmer, he was injury prone. Let's not forget, last year he had blown out another knee last year for the Cardinals, who was looking like a promising team at the time. You know, so it's going to always be looked at as how healthy can you be.
As long as Carson Palmer's healthy, I think they will compete in the NFC. And later on in the week, we'll see where we have them matched up because this is the second loss in a row to the Bengals.
Right.
Do the Cardinals move ahead of them in the power rankings? You want to find out. Coming up next, college football preview or review right here on the Sports Machine. Back to Sports Machine. This is Brian Franklin with the Sports Machine's Daily Sports Ticker. Last night in the NBA, the Warriors beat the Nuggets 118-105. This win makes the Warriors 15-0, tying the best start in league history. For the full slate of NFL games yesterday, the Cowboys snapped their losing streak, winning against the Dolphins 24-14. The Raiders struggled on offense in the loss to the Lions 18-13. The Colts moved to 500 in their win against the Falcons 24-21. The Texans kept the pace, beating the Jets 24-17. The Eagles took a beating against the Buccaneers 45-17. Brock Osweiler won in his debut for the Broncos, beating the Bears 17-15. The Ravens have lost Flacco for the rest of the season in their win against the Rams 16-13. The Panthers remained undefeated, crushing the Redskins 44-16. The Packers got a big win against their NFC North rival Vikings 30-13. The Seahawks won against the 49ers 29-13. And in the Sunday night matchup, the Cardinals got a hard-fought win against the Bengals 34-31. This is the Sports Machine. Just rolled through the NFL.
This dude is fire, man. A-Bum. And A-Bum from B-Frank with the Sports Ticker.
People don't understand that, though. Us two are the only ones who understand, like, the fact that I just got done writing that.
Like 5 minutes ago. Like, every time I'm going to say this. He wrote that 5 minutes. He wrote, it's 2:15. He wrote that 150 at 1:55. Think about it. We just started the show at 2 a.m. We just started this show. He wrote that at 1:55, people. 1:55, no practice. God.
There was a couple slips there.
I didn't notice.
I could have done better.
They say to hell with false modesty, sir.
In college football, Clemson.
Oh, man.
I mean, they beat Wake Forest.
It was easy.
Just looking at their team, though.
Only time Wake Forest matters is when, basketball season?
No, they don't really matter in basketball that much anymore.
Oh, crap.
Tim Duncan left.
Yo, did my man Josh Howard come from Wake Forest?
I believe so.
Josh Howard back in the day? Man, that was my dude. I wonder what he's doing now. We should have a segment. Where are they now? Coming soon.
Kevin Cobb. That was pre-show joke.
Michael Bishop. Oh, man. We got to stop. Okay.
Alabama did not get ran on, as Nick Saban said before. That was the greatest video.
Right. What he say? Crap through a tent? That's the rated G version. If you ain't heard the video, just look it up. Look up crap through a tent.
Michigan State pulled out the win against Ohio State. We can actually get into discussing games now.
Right.
It was a close game, all game. I was impressed by the Michigan State quarterbacks, actually. You know, the fact that they screwed up.
Right.
They didn't really just throw the ball like that, but surprised by Ohio State's play calling, and so was Ezekiel Elliott.
Rightfully so. What if we knocked them on about mostly this season? About not running the ball with a hungry running back. You got a running back who you leaned on last year to get you to a national championship. To the first ever playoff national championship, right? And just for whatever this season, he hasn't gotten the carries necessary to help this team win. a good running game can help a quarterback that's not exactly the most accurate or not exactly the best, not the most consistent passer. Right?
Yes.
So if we know that, Urban Meyer, I'm pretty sure, knows that as well. Now, I'm not sure how much this plays plays a factor from the standpoint of they did lose their offensive coordinator who was doing this thing down there in Houston. But still, your new coordinator comes in and knows the players.
I think it might affect it a lot because what I saw in that game,
For
people that don't know, Urban Meyer and Braxton Miller are extremely close. Braxton Miller was going to be the starter last year if he wasn't hurt.
Right.
Regardless of how good he was playing.
Right.
Regardless of how good JT Barrett or Cardale Jones was, Braxton Miller was going to be the guy. And what I saw in that game is they were forcing Braxton Miller the ball. Trying to get him a screen, trying to get him a reverse. It's like, Ezekiel Elliott, he's your Heisman candidate.
Right.
Get him the ball.
He's your workhorse.
He wasn't necessarily having the greatest running game average-wise, but he was right. They would pick up momentum through the run game, and then they would just stop.
Right.
For no reason.
Right.
But I am concerned about Ezekiel's draft stock a little bit. Talent overcomes this little debacle he's in of him speaking out against the coach was not a good look.
It wasn't, but can you blame him for saying how he feel? Because he's went through this and kept quiet the whole season, B.
It's because they've been winning.
Yeah. I guess they say, like, it is what they say. Winning is the cure-all. It's the deodorant. Once you lose, all of a sudden it begins to stink.
Moving on, Notre Dame beat Boston College 19-16.
Right.
Does this hurt their college football playoff ranking?
Nope.
Just
Mainly
by
because
3 point. Eye test doesn't matter no more.
Only
against the Big 12 teams. It only matters against them. But
there it is,
for Notre
right
Dame,
there.
it doesn't matter. The eye test doesn't matter.
Because at the end of the day, they're going to always look at the fact that their one loss was against their number one team, Clemson. That's what they're going to always. For them, that is the main criteria. Well, despite the fact they had some ugly wins, their one loss was to Clemson by what, 2-3 points?
What if I throw a random, just hypothetical in here? What if Clemson loses? Does that knock both of them out, or just Clemson?
You know what? It's fun. No, I don't think so. I think they will wind up keeping it the same because they're going to say, well, their one losses or Clemson's one loss was a lot better than this team's one loss or that team being undefeated.
Clemson lose, they're out of the top 4. They're not playing anybody good for the rest of the season. Maybe.
Once again, this committee makes it so hard to really kind of get a beat on like who's going to be in the mix next week.
Iowa beat Purdue 40-20. Was not close.
Not close.
They went out there and did what they were supposed to do as a number 5 team going against Purdue. You're supposed to win.
Exactly.
Iowa moves to the top 4. With Ohio State dropping out, or is it going to be one of these Big 12 schools?
I think they're going to move Iowa into their position, especially when you look at the fact that Oklahoma State lost.
Maybe even Michigan State.
Iowa
or Michigan State. Iowa's undefeated but hasn't played anybody, or Michigan State, who lost to Nebraska on a debatable,
exactly,
very debatable non-penalty call.
Like
weird.
We kind of went into a discussion about that a couple of weeks ago, but you know what? You can argue, even though their losses they're now a top 20 team, Wisconsin, right? I think they're a top. They was like 20. You could argue and say that, well, their loss was to a top 20 team.
And but they lost to Nebraska.
They lost to Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't think Nebraska's in the mix.
No.
Well, then that kind of kicks that one in the rear end. Still, though, you got to look at who they knocked off. They knocked off the defending championship team.
To make it clear, Iowa and Michigan State, as long as Michigan State doesn't lose, will play each other.
Right.
So this is all just kind of
speculation
on what's going to be this week's ranking.
Right.
Moving to the Big 12, Baylor, with that backup quarterback, beat Oklahoma State 45-35.
Their third backup at that. Because the true freshman got hurt.
He got hurt with the ankle injury.
I think that really hurts Oklahoma State. And unfortunately, I was hoping, as I got on the Oklahoma State bandwagon, they go and lay a dud at home. It would have been different had they went into Waco and lost that game. But they lost that game at home. So a true freshman came in and got a couple of drives on them at home. And the third string comes in and continues the success, even though he had a couple of interceptions that was
he had a couple
kind of weird.
questionable throwing decisions.
Right.
But he was making plays. He did make a lot of good throws as well.
But I guess that was kind of like the argument when they played Texas Tech, how they fell so far behind Texas Tech, and Texas Tech being Texas Tech let them come back and win the game. So I'm curious to see how far they drop in the polls, or if they drop at all, because they lost to a top 10 team.
They're gonna drop.
They're gonna drop.
Yes.
Outside the top 10. Or at 10.
That's going to be a close one. It's going to be right there.
Right.
They'll probably drop out. Oklahoma beat TCU 30-29. TCU somehow got back into this game.
Which is going to really hurt Oklahoma. Because once again, you playing against a backup quarterback. You just playing against a backup at home.
The third string came in and started putting TCU on the map because they had to bench Sawyer, who was, I can call him what he is.
Here comes Santa Claus.
He was a gift basket.
Straight like that.
It is what it is. No Trayvon Boykin out there.
Once again, the moment you hear that, here comes Santa Claus, it's never a good thing.
Wasn't a fan of Tom Sawyer in a way.
So I'm kind of curious to see how all three Big 12 teams, where they fall to, whether it's in the top 10 or out the top 10. Because last week, TCU got penalized in a win. They dropped back 3 spots in the win.
I mean, they played Kansas and barely won.
It's beside the point. They won.
Notre Dame's probably going to get, hopefully. I hope they're consistent. Asking a little too much out of the college playoff committee.
Even though it's 12 of them. I guess all 12 of them can't always seem to agree on the Big 12. How ironic.
Coming up right here, get into a boxing segment in which there was a loser and a winner, and someone named Don Trilla. Sports Machine went over the NFL review, college football review. It's time to get that boxing that happened this weekend. And for the Don Trilla comment, it was the name of a judge, and we thought it was a cool name.
Right. Well, if you're a fan of hip-hop music, rap music, Trilla was something Rick Ross used to say. Trilla, when he used to come in one of his songs. And the name Trill was like a bum. It was like a UGK, Southern Texas deal where, Trill stands for just keeping it too real. Hey, just keeping it too real, so it's Trill. But that was just a little bit of education for you.
Getting to the actual boxing match. Miguel Cotto, if you're not a big boxing fan, Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez had a boxing match in which the WBC title was on the line for Canelo Alvarez. Right. Miguel Cotto was kind of the holder, but not really the holder. He was a lineal champion because of some sanctioning fees in which Miguel Cotto refused to pay, which I probably would refuse to pay.
Right. I mean, it was a ton of money. It was like almost $325,000. Like, really? Come on, man.
In the match, Canelo Alvarez came away with the win.
Right.
In decision.
It wound up coming down to the fact that the bigger fighter imposed his will on the smaller fighter. The smaller fighter being Miguel Cotto, I thought would be able to use his superior boxing skills and his talent to actually win out in a decision. Now, if you heard the last show, I predicted that if it went to the scorecards, Miguel Cotto would win the fight by decision, or he would wind up getting knocked out. Like, that was my prediction. Either Canelo wins by knockout, Cotto wins by decision. And I wasn't close. Like, man, some judges even had it
lopsided.
So lopsided to where it was a unanimous decision. Let's get to the point. Canelo Alvarez won by unanimous decision.
I don't know one person that thinks Miguel Cotto won that fight.
Yeah, I don't either. Anybody who did, I mean, they had to been drunk.
I'm not even dissing Miguel Cotto because I said kind of during the match because I realized it was like, why is Miguel Cotto even fighting at this weight?
Right, because he's really a welterweight. And
I mean, I like the fact that he's trying to fight someone really good, but it's like
Right.
you're going against a fighter in his prime, and you're a little bit outside your prime. Plus, you're changing your boxing.
You
He's
just
in the
changed
middle.
it.
That's what I'm saying. You
Right.
just changed your boxing.
which really worked well for him. Like I said, like he looked good against previous fighters where he was able to get inside, get outside, work his boxing, work what he's learned from Freddie Roach. But when it boiled down to it, the sharper puncher, the better fighter that night, hands down, was Canelo Alvarez. Mainly because of the fact that he was the more crisp puncher. And we got some CompuBox numbers right here. It was Canelo Alvarez outlanded Miguel Cotto 155 to 129 and had a higher connect percentage at 32 to Cotto's 21%. Miguel Cotto threw the most punches, but he didn't land them. So in his mind, he was a more busier fighter, but just because you're the busier fighter doesn't mean you had the clean, effective punching, which is a part of scoring in boxing. Clean, effective punching.
Plus, I think Canelo Alvarez's punches just look like yeah, Cotto, you do more, but you have to throw more because your punches are softer.
Right.
Canelo Alvarez, every single punch looked like it was like
It's
all right,
devastating.
Cotto, you all right?
Right.
There was a couple of I was like,
Knee buckling
good?
shots. Right. I even streamed the video off my my Periscope account. You know what I'm saying? And told people, hey man, if you ain't able to watch the fight, if you don't break, work, can't watch it. Follow me on Periscope, and I streamed it. It should still be up if you follow me as well. Entering the fight, Alvarez was landing about 49% of his power punches, third highest among active fighters. He landed 40% of his power punches against Cotto, 118 out of 298. Cotto landed 75 or 255 for 29%. So he landed 40% of his power punches where he was already averaging 49%. So once again, I mean, the numbers really speaks for itself. Cotto went out there, done what he tried to do. He tried to work his jab from time to time, but I think he kind of fell back into just trying to make this guy respect him. It was at times he went there in brawl mode, and when he got hit with a few shots, it was like, man, you can't. When you're not landing the shots that he's landing, it's not a lot you can really do. So the last thing you want to do is continue to allow yourself to get hit. Like one of the things I said before, I pride Cotto on was the fact that he was able to use his superior boxing against other fighters, get in, get his shots, and get out. In this fight, it really didn't matter because he would try to throw his jab, or he actually got frustrated right in the middle of the fight, in my opinion. He got pretty frustrated.
that's what it looked like. Because the fight, I think by the fourth round, it was 2-2. In my opinion, I guess some people had Canelo winning all four, but
Right.
I think Cotto had a couple of them.
Right.
And even into the sixth, it looked like it was a
Still
close fight. But as you said, it looked like Cotto started getting frustrated, started swinging a little bit wider.
Right.
Got away from the jab a little bit. It looked like he wanted to brawl with Canelo, and Canelo's the bigger fighter.
Right.
He's an inside fighter. That's exactly what he wants. He wants you to come to him,
Right.
so he doesn't have to come after you.
Right. And the thing is not only he's the stronger fighter, but he had the more devastating punching power between the two.
It looked pretty bad.
Yeah, because in the 12th round, he suffered a real bad cut over the eye. It was a couple times, man, I thought Cotto was going to go down by knockout, but he weathered the storm. But at the same time, Alvarez just basically outclassed him. And like you said, early on in the fight, I only gave Miguel Cotto 3 rounds out of the whole fight. And that's going to sound pretty bad, but it was because of the fact early on, it was more of a chess match. And then after, like you said, about the 6th round, it just became Canelo Alvarez imposing his will. Miguel Cotto getting frustrated because he's not even hurting him. He's hitting him with some hard shots, hit him with a few hooks, but through some combinations, but it seemed like he never was frustrated.
There's a rumor that Cotto may retire. Do you think he should? I think maybe if he wants to continue fighting, he can just go down to his actual weight class and actually do
Fighting
work.
the welterweight, right? Because there's still some good welterweight fights out there.
I think, and plus, I think he would win. Like, you
Right.
could see that he still has the boxing. I mean, it wasn't like Canelo just made him look like a fool.
Right,
It wasn't that bad.
right,
It was just Canelo was the better fighter. If Canelo's in his prime,
Right.
prime on prime, who knows how to fight with a win.
exactly.
Shout out to the undercard, Vargas and Vieira. That was one of the most entertaining fights I've seen in a while. Because that, as you said, that was not a chess match. That was
All out brawl.
fighting in the phone booth.
Yeah.
That was, I don't even know if I call that boxing, but it was really entertaining to watch.
It was a brawl.
Neither face looked good afterwards.
No,
The winner did not look good at all. His whole right side of his face done.
like it's looking like a slab of meat. Like just take your shot at it. Once again, like they had a couple of fights that was on the undercard that looked really good to me. You know, it wasn't always that entertaining for some people, but as a fan of boxing, as a fan of the sweet science, it had some great fights that night.
Like, Rig It Out was a beast.
Right.
Like, the fact that people be bashing him because he kind of like Mayweather. Just keep watching him. Because it doesn't
Exactly.
look like he's going to lose anytime soon. Coming up, we have the NBA weekend review right here on Sports Machine.
I am Dwayne Dean. This is your Sports Machine News Update. The Los Angeles Dodgers have hired former player Dave Roberts to replace Doug Mattingly as the team's manager. Although the Dodgers have decided on Roberts and he has agreed to take the job, league source said that the two sides were still working out final contract details. Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Jameis Winston tied the NFL record for passing touchdowns in a game by a rookie, with 5 in a 45-17 victory over the Eagles on Sunday. Winston connected with 5 different receivers on 5 scoring plays in his record-setting afternoon. The other rookie quarterbacks to accomplish this feat were Lions' Matthew Stafford in 2009 and Bears' Ray Boulevard in 1937. The NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell sought to draw a line between daily fantasy sports and season-long fantasy football leagues he says the NFL supports. Goodell said the NFL see a big distinction between daily fantasy sports and season-long leagues, which he said are an opportunity to enjoy the game. Fantasy football, Goodell said, is not about making money.
It ain't about the money.
The Washington Redskins searched for a reason why certain calls went against them Sunday. Defensive end Jason Hatcher had one theory. Quote, "I'm not saying this is out of character to get fined, but it is what it is. I don't know if it's about the name or what, but we play football. We work our butts off too." Close quote. This was your Sports Machine News Update. I am Dwayne Dean, Sports Machine.
Sports Machine with Brian and Dean. NFL review, college football review, and Cotto versus Alvarez. We've discussed all those. It's time to get into NBA over the weekend. Start off on Saturday, some of the matchups. The Hawks and the Cavaliers look to be intriguing. Cavaliers went in there and just kind of handled them from the start. And the Hawks couldn't get back in it. It'll be very interesting what the Cavaliers look like when Kyrie comes back. That's the biggest question right now because the Cavaliers right now look like the favorite in the East by far. Does it help or hurt when Kyrie comes back?
I think it'll hurt for so many games because of the team's chemistry is together right now. But when you're bringing in a new player who has to, I won't call him a new player, but he's going to be new to the season. He's going to have to find his legs first. Not only is he going to have to find his legs, but he's going to have to find his place. Because once again, about the time he comes back, it's going to be coming close to what the All-Star break. So it's going to start to get down to the nitty-gritty in baseball after the All-Star break. In basketball, after the All-Star break, where he's going to be facing stiffer competition trying to get his game back together.
Another intriguing game that happened Saturday. The Wizards and the Pistons. Doesn't sound intriguing, but both of these teams are trying to make the playoffs in the East.
Mm-hmm.
The Wizards came away with a 2-point win extremely close. I was a little surprised by the rebirth of Nene in that game because Nene's really struggled this season. And you would assume with Andre Drummond being on the other side that he would struggle as well in this game. But Andre Drummond did not play particularly well in this game. He had a low of 13 rebounds, but he only had 8 points.
He was due for one, though. I mean, he came
True.
back. I mean, prior to
People have their games. Even
exactly.
LeBron has his
I mean,
games.
You said he had 8 and 13, right?
Yeah. And
Some
two
guys try to average that. Like they want to try to average that. Yet this guy's been averaging 19 and 19. No one's done that since Kareem or Bill Russell. That is.
It was a very defensive game as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Philadelphia Tanks, formerly known as the 76ers, I renamed them, lost to the Heat. They are now 0-14.
Wow, that's just dismal. And you know what? I have no love for Philly, so therefore I don't have any sympathy for Philly.
I have sympathy for the 76ers, what they used to be, because AI used to be there.
Exactly. Like that was a squad. That was a team back then. Allen Iverson changed the game with the way he done everything on the court, off the court, who he was, his personality. Hell, he changed the whole hairdo. Everybody wanted Allen Iverson braids back in the day.
Speaking of that, San Antonio Spurs beat the Grizzlies 92-82. Grizzlies used to be their nightmare matchup. The Grizzlies are playing very questionable this season with Lionel Hollins no longer being there.
Right.
They may have made the wrong decision.
May have. I think they did.
Yeah, I do. Too.
I mean, this is one of the most. The defense they used to play was so grimy, so hard. They wasn't going to always beat you scoring, but one thing you knew when you was playing the Grizzlies, when Hollins was coaching them, was you was coming up against a grimy defense for 4 quarters. Grimy. I mean, but once again, I mean, they made the change because they felt like not having enough offense was the reason why they wasn't being as successful as they could have been. But
Funny, I actually think they have less offense now with Hollins gone.
right.
The Knicks look good this season. The Rockets look bad. The Knicks beat the Rockets 107-102. Porzingis looks like the real deal.
What I like is the way he was booed so bad on draft night because he wasn't, Karl Anthony Towns and, a couple of these other guys.
Justice Winslow, which is why they wanted him even though Winslow went 10th.
Right.
Everyone said that was going to be the steal of the draft, and Porzingis actually looks like the steal of the draft
Exactly.
and where he was drafted.
And the thing is, he's still growing into his body. That's what people don't understand. This guy's still growing into his body. This guy can play inside, outside, and he can rebound. And the fact that it's noted that New York is a tough place to play, but this guy's taking it and running with it.
Flipped into a positive.
Exactly.
He's making a profile for himself.
Exactly.
People know his personality, know what he looked like when he was a kid. He had AI braids, like you mentioned earlier.
Right. Straight like that.
Moving from Saturday into Sunday, the Thunder got a win without Kevin Durant against the Dallas Mavericks.
Man.
I guess that's what happens when Russell Westbrook has 31 points, 5 rebounds, and 11 assists.
Right. Then again, it's
kind of what he's been doing since Kevin Durant's been out.
right. And once again, to the Mavs, you had a 6-game winning streak going at the time, and they lost the game. They lost at Oklahoma City, but you're not going to go far allowing 117 points. It's been a couple of times in that win streak where they've allowed over 100 points. If you're looking to go deep into the playoffs, and right now nowhere near the playoffs, but if you're looking to make a deep run, they're going to have to sew it up defensively. Get more consistent play from a few players.
They made a lot of additions, departures in the offseason. To me, when you have a lot of people coming in and out, what's affected the most is not the offense, like many people leave because of chemistry. I mean, when you have players like Dirk Nowitzki and Darren Williams,
Right.
Wesley Matthews. You have players that know how to score.
Exactly.
The thing to me that actually gets taken away the most is team defense.
Right.
When to switch.
Communication.
See, some people are natural. Like Tyson Chandler, he's natural.
Right.
He knows, like, he's the center. He knows when to switch, come off, help
Right.
defense. The players on the Mavericks right now, they're not natural defenders.
Even though, you know what, I got to give props to Zaza Pachulia. When I heard they signed this guy, I was down on him. I was clowning him a bit.
Because you miss out on DeAndre Jordan, then you hear Zaza. It's like,
Oh, crap. Right, but
like that was a reach. Here we go.
right. You know, and they had missed out on Roy Hibbert, who got traded at the time, you know, to the Lakers. But, like, he's been actually playing pretty consistent. From the couple of games I've been able to catch, he's been playing pretty good ball for him early on. So,
You don't want Roy Hibbert.
no. Not after what I'm seeing now.
I mean, he would like all last year with the Indiana Pacers. He wasn't good without Paul George. Moving on, Raptors beat the Clippers. Clippers only scored 80 points against the Raptors after nearly beating the Warriors.
I told you, I think that loss may have cut them pretty deep. Once again, they still have 2 more games against the Warriors, but it's something about a loss like that when you was up 23 points against the defending world champions, undefeated defending world champions, and you just choke it away. Like, that's the only thing I can call it, is a choke away, because during that game nobody was actually, you know, electric for the Warriors, but they done just enough to get going. And what did we just say earlier before pre-show? With this team, you have to play perfect basketball. And if they're perfect, they're playing perfect basketball, then what?
Going into the Warriors, they did beat the Nuggets yesterday.
Right.
118 to 105, becoming 15-0, tying the league record of the start. As you were saying, the Nuggets played what? They were hanging in with the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
The Nuggets aren't the best team in the world, but they're hanging in with the Warriors. Stephen Curry didn't go off for 40, only had 19 points. I know how bad that is.
Mm-hmm.
Only scored 19. Only had 3 3-pointers, which that might have ruined his night.
If you listen to the last show, you'll be hearing us reference that a whole lot. So be prepared.
Didn't quite hit the 5 3-point mark.
Yeah. But maybe she was nice tonight.
No.
Kind.
Nope.
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 I mean, they're still undefeated.
Nope. Draymond Green did his thing defensively. Harrison Barnes, to me, is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league right now. Kind of underplayed because how good Draymond Green is at defense, which is what the Warriors actually kind of run on. Not really their offense, because they're going to be able to score when they need to score.
Right.
What's changed since Mark Jackson, I think, is the defense. When Draymond Green, Harrison Barnes bring to the court, as well as Andrew Bogut, is defense. You can have Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson score all day.
Right.
But if you're giving up 120 points, it's not going to work.
Never will. Never will.
They play the Lakers next, so it looks like that they're going to be 16-0. Unless the Black Mamba comes back.
Unless the Black Mamba come out and beat out scores 81.
we need Jacoby. Take out Stephen Curry, because someone over here thinks Stephen Curry could hit 81.
I sure do. Sure do. I'm man enough to admit it. I honestly feel like deep down, Stephen Curry can beat Kobe Bryant's 81-point mark.
Say it again. Say something else. Oh! Say something else. Say something else.
I still feel like he gonna do it. You can play, you can drop, Pinky can talk.
I don't understand.
Drop him all day long. You don't need Jesus to come and tell me why he won't do it. That's what you need.
You don't need Jesus. I'm right here. I got you. I can tell you why he won't do it. I can tell you why.
You can drop him, but at the same time, I still feel like it, and I'm gonna stand by this to the day this dude retired.
I feel like some type of wager needs to be made, but we're going to forget about it by the time he retires.
I still feel like this dude, the way this guy shoot, the way this guy play basketball, he's created his own style of basketball. This guy can score.
He can score. He can score a lot.
There's not a lot of defenders out there that can.
He doesn't score the way Kobe scored, though.
Let's not forget.
Not a similar
he put up that 81 points against a horrible Raptors team at the time. I mean, their fans was even cheering him on. They was hoping he got the 100 points.
I mean, it'd be like going to Philadelphia right now.
Right. So he could. So
he will be benched by the first quarter. Slight exaggeration.
Yo, I would have to send some dirty tweets out. I have to tweet Kerr or Luke Walton, who's coaching his team really well, by the way, who I think he deserved these wins. Deserved to probably be looking at, for someone to be looking at him as a possible coaching candidate one day, whether it's college, NBA. This dude can coach. He has a good squad, but just because they're a good squad, they still need somebody to coach them, to draw up plays for him. And Luke Walton, who's won a few championships with the Lakers, is doing a great job coaching, by the way.
I don't know about that.
All right.
You have the type of people around.
I guess it just makes your job that much easier by all means. All right.
It does make it easier. There's a difference between coaching Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Harrison Barnes, Draymond Green, Andrew Bogut, and coaching the Philadelphia Tanks.
All they do is draft big men that can't play. That's hurt.
Exactly. No coach is going to be able to help that situation. They're going to fire every coach they ever get.
That's because the front office is horrible.
But they can't.
They ought to be forced to sell the. They ought to be forced to sell the franchise. Let's just be for real.
Sell the franchise.
Just sell the franchise because they're not in it to make. They never mind. You already know. I'm about to start a rant.
All right, moving on into something positive. In the NFL, San Diego decided to retire LaDainian Tomlinson's jersey, number 21.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-show, we kind of got to talking about it.
Right.
Maybe I'm overrating Tomlinson's career a little bit because I have him high on my list of greatest running backs. I haven't quite picked it up in my mind, but by the time I say it, I'm gonna mean it. He is really high on my list of greatest running backs of all time.
I have him high on my list as well. Mainly, when I think about some of the greatest running backs in the NFL, a lot of them that's at the top, I haven't seen them play before. Like, I can't tell you nothing about Jim Brown because I wasn't allowed to see Jim Brown play.
One thing we have is old heads' words.
Exactly.
And numbers.
Exactly. Even with Walter Payton, like, I'm an 80s baby, but I wasn't, I guess, educated enough from football-wise to understand what Walter Payton was doing. And even with Gale Sayers, like what they brought to the game, things like that. So I can only think of the greatest running backs that I was able to see at the time that I was coming up with it, when I was able to understand the game of football, like Emmitt Smith and you know what I'm saying? Like Barry Sanders.
Marshall Faulk.
Exactly. Like
Shaun Alexander.
Exactly.
I think Shaun Alexander gets underrated as well.
Exactly.
The things he used to do.
Exactly. And like I said, that's just to name a couple of guys, but LT's high on the list, especially for me, because we're from Texas.
Yeah. This is where I thought I was biased because I was like, LT's the best running back I've seen. Him and Emmitt Smith.
Uh-huh.
And I think, and Barry Sanders as well. I don't feel like we got to see full Barry Sanders, which is why I think other people believe he's the greatest, is because we didn't get to see the full thing. So your imagination is allowed to run wild because it's like, oh, look at all the things he could have. It's like Bo Jackson. It's like, look at all the things he could have did.
Right.
Well, it's like, but he didn't.
Right.
Sorry to tell you this, but he didn't do those things.
Exactly.
So don't even put him in this conversation.
It's like they say, if ifs was fifths, we'd all be drunk.
And I know I'm going to get bashed for that because it's Barry Sanders and people get...
But he still, what
he did was great,
right?
And I still think he's one of the best. But don't overhype him like he's just nothing. Nobody can even touch him,
right?
You saying all the things he could have did, but look at the things LaDainian Tomlinson did
do, right?
I mean, the
Let's
touchdown record was
like, you remember how, like, man, getting the ball in LT hands always worked out well for you. Period. Like, you talk about what the type of threat Marshall Faulk was. Inside running, outside running, receiver out the backfield. LT was that plus. I mean, LT's breakaway speed, like it was. Let's take time to think about what LT was doing at TCU.
Oh,
I mean, it's crazy. What LT was doing at TCU was just unseen. Just
before TCU was this TCU. For
exactly.
all the young people out there, TCU is not always good.
No, it really wasn't.
It was really bad most of the time.
Exactly. So you think about if you go and look up his numbers when he was at TCU, you begin to really say, wow, like some guys come from those big programs, and I won't call any names. And you say, oh, this guy's going to be great, and he just fizzles out. And you always get a guy like a LT or somebody come from at the time, it was a smaller school.
It was a small school at the time.
Right.
Football wise, I mean.
Right. And then, boom, has a Hall of Fame career. First ballot Hall of Famer, hands down.
See, Barry Sanders the same way in a way. I mean, Oklahoma State hasn't always been a powerhouse in football. I mean, they're not just necessarily a powerhouse now, but they're relevant now.
Right.
They weren't necessarily just...
They wasn't the most relevant when he was playing. It was more like Oklahoma was.
So if we're going to list them, just the few guys we've named is Marshall Faulk, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, and LT. Where do you think he ranks among players like that?
I'm going to go top two. And the reason I say top two because I look at his impact on the team. Like, to me, that's something you can't take that out the equation, out the conversation. Because even though Barry Sanders could be, some people consider one of the greatest running backs of all time, right? But let's also look at the impact that he had on Detroit. Yeah, he was their only show, but he also had a lot of he was led the league a lot of times in most negative yards play, mainly because of the fact that he didn't have that talent. But then again, when LT got to San Diego, he didn't have that same talent either. All they had was LT to build on.
Say eventually they did build the O-line around him.
Exactly.
But that was years in.
Right. And I mean, Drew Brees of now or the past few years was not the same Drew Brees of old. That's the reason why they was able to let him go and get a Phillip Rivers like they did. Was happy to let him go because of the rotator cuff injury. So once again, the reason why I say top two is because I look at his impact that he had on that franchise as a whole. For me, number one, when I sit back and think about it, and call me what you want to call, say what you want to say, but it's going to always be Emmitt Smith to me. When I look at what, I know Emmitt Smith had Aikman and Irvin, Jay Novacek and those guys, but I look at the impact that he had on the game for the team, what he done for the team overall, with his effective running style, with the fact that, hey, he's played with bum and broken shoulders.
Yes. Really impressive.
Exactly. Like, I'm talking finished games just beaten down, broken. I don't think you can knock that as well, what he's done. Not to mention he's the Russian champion of all time.
Like I mentioned you pre-show, because you kind of stated before, we didn't watch those players play, but what most people out there don't realize is that I'm even younger than you.
Right.
So when you say Emmitt Smith, yeah, I saw Emmitt Smith play, but really the Emmitt Smith I saw was the
Arizona Cardinals.
Like, I saw a little bit before that. Like, I know how good Emmitt Smith was because I have gone back and watched him play. I do understand how good he was.
Right.
But there's always something special about watching your era of players.
Exactly.
Everyone else, Joe Montana versus Tom Brady. The older people going to say Joe Montana is their era player.
Exactly.
Tom Brady's my era player.
So
I'm going to say Tom Brady.
Right,
Like,
and only right.
That's kind of like, to me, Emmitt Smith and LT is that conversation. Your era is Emmitt Smith, my era is LT. I grew up watching LT. LT
was that dude. Right.
Made you want to wave powder blue.
Right, exactly.
It was cool.
The only other jersey I do have that's not a Cowboy jersey is LT powder blue. Period.
It's clean.
Coming out of Waco.
Always hold it down for the T.
Yes.
It's that time.
Really though. Really though. Really though. Really,
Some things in sports that just make you say, really though? Who you want to go first?
I'll take this one now. I'll make this one real quick. My really though goes to Washington Redskins defensive end, Jason Hatcher. Why, might you say, if you heard my news break earlier, all of a sudden, this team lose a game and people want to start yelling conspiracy for the Redskins. Calls didn't go our way. They called this. They was intentionally doing this and that. But what about when you guys blowed out the Saints last week with over 40-something points? Got a coach fired. Y'all didn't seem to think that the coaches was against y'all then. And my main knock on him is because he's saying, Jason Hatcher, and quote, I'm not saying this out of character to get fined, but it is what it is. I don't know if it's about the name. Really? So what about your other 4 wins? Y'all won 4 other times. Now all of a sudden it's, well, now they went against us because of our names and stuff like that. Well, if that's the case, y'all should be 0 for nothing. Y'all should be 0 and whatever this is, not 0 and 10, 0 and 11. Then y'all can start spouting those type of deals. But as of right now, y'all had a great win last week. Y'all been an inconsistent team all season. You've won 1, lost 1, won 1, lost 2, won 1, lost 1, won 1. Like, you guys are an inconsistent team. Now, all of a sudden, everybody is supposed to, y'all been running around here screaming, you like that, you like that. Well, apparently the reps didn't like it, according to you. But the fact of the matter is, your defense that you played on was getting beat down.
When you lose by 28 points, you can't blame that on calls.
Thank God. Thank you. Exactly. So, Jason Hatcher, former Cowboy. Really, though?
Just one question about that. Did you really throw him just because he was a former Cowboy?
No.
Okay.
No. It was mainly because, I actually had somebody else lined up for it. Until I saw this, I was like, oh, no. I can't let that ride.
No.
Yeah, I can't let that ride.
You mentioned the Washington Redskins got a coach fired. Speaking of this coach, he's on the table today. And if you're wondering why he is getting really old, and I quote, Rob Ryan did say these were words coming out of his mouth. Everything in New Orleans is being blamed on me, including Katrina.
Wow. He brought up Hurricane Katrina?
Like, really though?
Oh, man.
You know that's a no-go.
That's a low blow. That's like a dude kicking another man below the belt.
Like, you can't do that.
Right.
This is not okay.
Right.
Rob Ron, like, for that city, you better never go to New Orleans again.
Man.
I hope you don't go to New Orleans again.
I like the fact that what you said before earlier. I mean, he'll get you one great season of great defense. Get you maybe a top 10, maybe even top 5 defense. That next season and the season after that and the season after that, they're just going to get worse, 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 and worse. And once you get beyond worse or worser or worse-ist, then it's just like, yo, you got to go. There's no improvement.
Like, his defense is over here getting rocked like a hurricane. 10 points.
10 points.
Yeah, Rob Ryan. At this point, you should be blamed for Katrina. Just for you bringing it up. Mm-hmm. Someone on Twitter probably sent him that. Man, everything that happened in New Orleans is because of you.
It's his fault the levees broke.
Why didn't you call FEMA?
That's how I start.
So, Rob Ryan, really though? Katrina? Do you think it was appropriate to bring that up?
Great job, Rob. Great job, Rob.
At least we can know if we ever fire you. He didn't say nothing about Dallas.
We'll give him a double sarcastic thumbs up.
I wonder what he could say about Dallas. I'm trying to think of an event. JFK.
Oh, man.
They're blaming me for everything in Dallas, including JFK.
Man. And that was like, yesterday marked the anniversary of that. Yesterday, Sunday marked the anniversary. On that date, at about afternoon yesterday. Yep, that's exactly what that was.
Timing is pretty impeccable.
Man.
Coming up tomorrow, a lot of injuries in the NFL. See how those stack up. And of course, somebody is going to get really old. Later on in the week, college football playoff rankings will be released. NFL power rankings, and of course, much more from the NBA right here on the Sports Machine.
Peace out.